Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com. Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Explore historic waterways in 2025 with Scenic on the most inclusive cruise on Europe's rivers. Enjoy up to 5 dining experiences, spacious suites, and butler service. Be immersed in the culture with enriching free choice excursions and exclusive events. Scenic, in a class of its own. Book now and save.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about food when the power goes out, right? So things, things can get hairy. And so I kind of wanted to get back to the basics. We just did an episode on, how to turn the lights on when the power's out. Then we did how to find and store water. And now, back to the basics. Let's talk about food, right? Because food turns out like foundation of life kind of thing. It's one of those big ones, right? Like water and air, you need those. So we're going to break down to it about one, what you should be doing for your basics, but two, like, what do you do when it gets cold outside and it's wintertime? We're going to cover it all. But make sure, this is your kind of thing. You like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. Let's jump right into it. So just real quick, Kevin, we always talk about a 2-week food storage should be the norm for everybody. I mean, obviously, people are like, oh, we need a year of food storage, and that's great. And we want you to get there. But everybody should kind of have 2 weeks worth of food.
Whether you're a prepper or not. Yeah.
Or is that even doable? Or what do you do in a normal pantry and without your long-term food storage or whatever? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, I think most people should at least have, a selection of canned foods, just basic stock of stuff that you use regularly, canned vegetables.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I think a lot of people don't pick up because it seems gross is potted meat, right? That's what they call it down south. Canned meats, canned tuna fish, canned chicken. Those are great things.
I know people had spam recipes for you in the past.
Yeah, I was talking trash about spam, and I got all sorts of hate mail over it. Mm-hmm, but yeah, I'm not a fan of spam. But I mean, anything like that. I mean, anything canned stuff that you would normally use. Spam isn't on that list, but
now it's not on your list.
Who doesn't like a tuna fish sandwich? Chicken salad sandwich. Who doesn't like that? I mean,
that should be
stuff.
Commies.
That should be stuff that you have in your cabinet, regardless. Canned vegetables. I know I've got a stockpile for years on canned corn and canned green beans. I draw the line at canned asparagus. That just seems. I haven't eaten it. I don't know, but it just seems gross.
Oh, my wife just bought a ton of asparagus plants, already
growing.
Growing, but they came dried, over the, you know what I mean, where they're just dry roots and you just drop them in. And we're excited about that. Hundreds of, we got rows, a 30-foot row of asparagus. So we're not messing around anymore. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so one of the big things with that is, you want to have stuff that your family wants to eat, right?
Right.
So that's where they talk about, buy things in redundancy, like when it's on sale or when they have the buy one, get one or whatever like that. You just buy the extra of your normal staples. It's cool that people want to eat fresh all the time, and that's how it should be. I love that life. But, it's not everybody can go to the grocery store every 3 days. And obviously, if you have a big garden, then you don't have to worry. You got 2 weeks in the garden.
Right.
We could talk about that a little bit. But, buy things that you're going to eat. And like Kevin said, you could add pancake mix to that would be a big, extender. I mean, honestly,
Right.
you can buy the big bag for $10 at Sam's Club. That's going to be 2 weeks of breakfast right there,
Right. Oatmeal is another one that stores well. You know what I mean? You get the big containers of the oatmeal.
Absolutely. If you do the crappy corn syrup, that stuff's like nothing. I mean, it's like $3 for the gallon jug or whatever at Sam's Club. That's no big deal. Again, we all want to be healthy. I get that. And you find a way to incorporate these things. It just takes a little more outside the box to have long-term healthy options and maybe just a little bit more money. That's how it comes down to. Everything is time, money, and, like that.
Yeah. Dried beans, dried rice, those are all great things that you can just stick it in a container and forget about it. Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of those carry a long time. But even having an extra loaf of bread in the freezer or something, every time, maybe being able to bake bread, right? Maybe have the flour and the stuff where you're like, hey, I'll be able to bake 3 loaves of bread if things, go south. And then that'll extend our time, right? That way you're getting nice, fresh, healthy, good stuff.
Right.
And yet it's still something.
And if you store flour properly, you can store it for a long time. Same with sugar.
So let's get into it. So when people think survival and off grid, they're not thinking, oh, I have a pantry full of food. You guys were hoping for, well, what do I do when the power's not coming back on, right?
Right.
It's been
2 weeks is great, but
and now I got a big problem, right? As preppers and survivalists, that's the big, the scary question.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you're listening to a prepper podcast, you probably already have 2 weeks of food. That's not your issue,
right? So let's jump into it. Yeah, what do we do, Kevin? How am I going outside my house and finding food?
Yeah, well, one of the big ones that I think is overlooked by a lot of preppers is foraging. And foraging can be tricky. If you can't just learn, basic foraging, on the fly, and every place is different too. If you live in Alabama, it's going to be completely different type of foraging than in Minnesota or, Spain or Ireland,
Absolutely. So one of the big things, a lot of the local areas offer classes and tours you can do. And it might not be that local, right? They might not have a guy who does a class in your town, but you probably have one in the next county or something like that. Now, Kevin's in New York, and New York City, where people don't really think of foraging, to be honest. They might think of dumpster diving. That's kind of like foraging. But
it is.
You don't think of, it's a city version. But there's this guy, Wild Man Steve Brill. He actually runs classes, and you can find his website. And he gives tours. I checked. He's still doing it.
Yeah.
And there are tours scheduled right now that you can sign up for in New York, where he takes you to Central Park. They had one in Long Island he had coming up. And they go around Central Park and they basically put together a meal. But I understand. We maybe don't all have time for, hey, I can't go do a foraging class. Although I got to say, that's kind of a cool thing to do, especially if you do it local to you. Now, he offers an app that you can put on your phone, and you just go through by name, and he shows you a picture, what it looks like, how to cook it, and that kind of thing. There's a bunch of apps. There's ones where you can just take a picture of any plant and it tells you if it's edible. That's not him. But there's things out there that you can do, a bunch of cool apps that you can put on your phone. Yeah. And it might be a good idea. And I would say buy some paper books, because, the really crazy preppers, the ones who think that there might be a cyber attack or an EMP, they might tell you that maybe your phone goes away.
Right. Maybe you don't have access to your apps.
So just checking that. You know, you might want to keep a hard paper book too. And actually, if you actually learn stuff, start going out and picking out some of these plants out of your backyard and eating them and learn to recognize them. I just like add 1 or 2 to my repertoire, you know, each year. Like I'll be like, oh, that one. And then I'll just like pick up and eat them whenever I see them and be like, oh, yeah, that's one of my. And you hope that the dog wasn't out peeing on it earlier.
Right.
But, you know, a little flavor, right? A little zest. A little zest keeps things exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the good things about, you know, doing some foraging, getting started now is that if you accidentally eat something awful and make yourself sick, you can still go to the hospital. You know what I mean? The truth is that there's very few things that you can poison yourself with by eating them in your yard that you can't get straightened out with, with a doctor visit. You won't always have a doctor visit. Better to get sick now than, after the power goes out.
Kevin, I prefer not to get sick at all. I'm just saying.
I do that shit myself all the time. Drink questionable water.
I seem to recall a video where you sprayed yourself with homemade pepper spray.
Yeah. It wasn't great.
So you make some questionable choices. I know. All right. So the next step would be maybe a garden, maybe growing some stuff. Now you're a big gardener, right?
Yeah, I am a big fan of gardening, homegrown. Now, one of the things though is having the garden set up. You don't want to the power goes out and miraculously it happens right in the beginning spring.
Yes, that's the best.
All right, great. So now you can go plant your seeds. Where? You're going to dig up your lawn? Like, do you have beds? Up my lawn. Does your lawn have decent soil for growing stuff that's not grass? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variables there. You know what I mean? If you're already doing a small garden, you can make a bigger garden pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, you can switch over and upscale. You have the seeds ready. You have the raised beds. You have the potting soil. Maybe you have stuff set aside. You have your compost bin going. You're ready to go. You can upscale that garden, especially if you have a basic experience growing some tomatoes, growing some lettuces, growing some vegetables, zucchinis and squash. But you want to get started on something like that now, at least if you have the land to do it, If you're living in an apartment complex, it might be a little bit trickier, but we also did a show on guerrilla gardening, where you sneak in other people's property and grow your vegetables and stuff in their property.
Definitely a good way to do it is the guerrilla gardening, because then you don't have to, remember we talked about like potatoes along the sidewalk, like you have the secret hidden. You guys know I like Rick Austin.
The Secret Garden of Survival.
Secret Garden of Survival. He's awesome. And also you might know him as the host of Prepper Camp. He also has the Secret Greenhouse of Survival. Now, I've actually read through and a very big fan of the Secret Garden of Survival. I've purchased the Secret Greenhouse of Survival, but I haven't read all the way through it yet. I have to dig deeper into that one and find out if that's really going to be the trick. But I do know that I am a big fan, and he's got some great gardening ideas on that. Now, there's a lot of things.
Check out
like
Rick Austin's books. He's got some great stuff.
He really does. He basically has it where it kind of takes care of itself, which is nice. Like, he's got, they had him on, he was actually on Doomsday Preppers back in the day. And they have him going out with like 5-gallon buckets and just filling them with fruit and vegetables. And if you can and preserve, you can have abundance for all year long. Right. But this takes time and setup. And his cool thing is you don't even recognize it as a garden. Like you look at it and it's just like, oh, that guy's yard. Somebody comes in and takes this guy's food storage and it doesn't matter. He's going to the backyard. He's still going to live, right? He's got it worked out. The cool thing too, there's a lot of plants, a lot of root vegetables, a lot of lettuces and things that will really carry on into the colder weather, into the fall.
Yeah, carrots and potatoes are great for that sort of stuff. You can dig them up almost any time of the year, and
you're good to
get
go
into the ground. Sometimes you get frozen down there pretty good, but
no, absolutely. So the next thing I would say. So we have gardening, we have foraging. Kevin, what do we do when it starts to get cold out though? What happens
There's
when
no,
my garden?
There's no garden, nothing coming up anymore. It's too late in the year.
I guess we could extend it with the greenhouse, right?
Yep.
And you could do cold frames.
Mm-hmm.
Again, those things let you start early and they let you end late, but then it kind of runs out.
Right.
And what do you do?
Right. And if you have to build a greenhouse on the fly, you can do it with some clear plastic and some PVC pipes and whatever you've got around. You can make a little greenhouse,
My plan is to
look
make
like trash, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Who cares?
My plan is to make a cold frame out of the car. Just use the windshield and kind of
and line your vegetables up on the dashboard.
Along the dash, yeah. That's how I imagine it. That's how it is in my mind's eye. All right. So anyway, what do we do when it gets cold and those things aren't grown out of the ground? Or what happens when things go bad in the wintertime?
Right.
So, all right. So number one, the first thing, everyone's like, well, I'm going to go hunting. Are you going to go hunting, Kevin?
Yes. Everybody's going to go hunting. Everyone that owns a gun, even people that have never hunted in their lives are going to go hunting. During the Great Depression, 80% of the white-tailed deer were gone, just disappeared.
Wow, that's crazy.
Just poaching and hunting. Because the thing is, in a situation like that, you're not worried about like repopulation. You're not concerned about, I only get, 8-point bucks and above. You're not doing. Nobody gives a shit about that.
That's not your role.
No, you shoot a little baby, you shoot anything, and everyone will be doing that.
It takes $1. You can have $1 with like 30 does out there, and he's like, "I got it covered. Don't worry about it."
Mm-hmm. Population will bounce back eventually, but it's not. It's not going to be easy to find after the first, maybe month,
because you don't have 30 does at that point, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
problem. I was going to make a reference to rural communities and what people do, how it only takes $1 to, but anyway, moving right along so we're hunting, but I think if you think outside the box a little bit and you're like, hey, squirrels and rabbits, right? Everyone thinks deer. I'm going to go get deer.
Right.
But now when we add squirrels and rabbits and maybe raccoon or something, possum, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know possum, people actually, if you mix the possum with the deer, you can kind of like really stretch it a little bit and it adds that fat and nice stuff. Maybe possum and rabbit we get together. I don't really know what the best option is. You got to watch, some Duck Dynasty maybe for the best recipes on that. I know they have books on squirrels and whatever.
But, raccoons are tricky, man. It's really a lot of trash, and I haven't eaten raccoon.
People eat
I don't
rats.
depend on it.
Rats are the big one in the city, really,
right?
It's safe.
Yeah. But raccoons, you want to boil that and then dump the water out before you start cooking it.
You're better you than me. That's what I would tell you. But all right, so moving right along, so hunting is big. The more unconventional you're willing to go, I think the more you're going to be able to reap and yield on that.
Yeah, and I would recommend having birdshot for your shotgun. 22 is great for hunting rabbit. Birdshot might be better for hunting squirrel and things like that, though.
All right, when there's or learn how to aim. I mean, I recommend some time at the range. Recommend some time at the range. I'm reading some prepper book now, and the girl's like making headshots with her slingshot on a squirrel. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's really, that girl practiced, apparently. They didn't say that, but I'm telling you, if she's making
possible. And I know I've seen people do it, but you really got to have.
That's the same person who's doing the bow and arrow and shooting it with their toes. And, that's that guy, right? So the next thing that's going to put you a step ahead, and again, everything, it's kind of like business ideas. The more outside the box you think, the better, the less people are trying it. So the more it's going to be open to you. So the next level, I think, is trapping. Mm-hmm. And trapping turns out like snares are freaking awesome. Now, snares are illegal for trapping most of the time, but I feel like it's because they work. They're like, oh, well, it's an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
I think they also make the argument that it's maybe a little inhumane because they're like, oh, my head's being choked out. It kind of sucks because people imagine their head being choked out.
Right.
It kind of suck. But I feel like if you held my leg in a trap and left me there for 20 hours and I knew I was going to die, I'd be unhappy too. It's not just the choking out. One of the big ones for squirrels is they tie a snare and just let it hang over the branch. What you want to look for is trees that are active with squirrels. You don't want to just pick, oh, there's a tree, squirrel's going to go in it. That's what it works. It's not really, you want to look where the squirrels are going. Now, obviously, it's going to be something with acorns or things like that, things that squirrels are excited about. But I got to say, I've seen people catch 6 squirrels in one tree. Like, they just keep, you can get them with the, and there is a lot of squirrels. You think, oh, I have 2 squirrels in my backyard, but you probably have more than that.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
My wife goes out every morning and throws peanuts for the squirrels.
Yeah.
And once word got out, every morning I go outside, there's like 10 squirrels just in the front yard, like watching the front door, waiting for her to come throw some peanuts. So, I mean, that's all. They're already primed to show up every morning.
And I think one of the things I had read was they were saying that basically when a squirrel gets taken out, the other one is coming for his stash. Like they know about it, you know, like they know, oh, that guy's been storing them over there and they're just coming to steal it. So if you catch the one guy, somebody else is moving in and so on. And that keeps like fulfilling. So that's something. Another thing with traps, there's a bunch of books out there on trapping. And I would say trapping is a skill you learn. We did do an episode on that. That was actually in New York. One of the bigger things that I always got annoyed that like New York makes you do an archery class for hunting. They make you do a rifle class. They make you do a trapping class. They're all separate classes for your permit or license to hunt. Right. But they never taught you anything. Like all the classes were like, don't shoot somebody, don't shoot somebody, don't shoot, which is good. I mean, that's important. But they also, it would be cool if you were like, hey, you need to keep your mouth shut when you're out with the deer. You need to not put on the cologne or smoke the cigar while you're out hunting the deer.
Right.
It's weird though, because you watch those movies with the 50s and stuff, and they're chugging beer and smoking cigars. And I don't know how they do it, but I haven't been able to do that. I actually haven't tried smoking a cigar while I'm hunting, but maybe I should.
Maybe you should give it a go.
It'll still be enjoyable. I don't know. You know, I don't know what I'll find. But with that, my point is experience. You realize, like, I got to say, when I started hunting, I found I had to be further back from the animal because I'm too fidgety and noisy. And so I just had to learn to be a better shot, right? So that I can be far back that he's not going to hear me or smell me. Learning things about being downwind or upwind, you know, those things matter a lot. And you have to, be aware of what's going on there. So maybe start trapping, get into it now while things are good. And then you'll be ready when things go bad. That's how that works.
And again, there's books on everything.
Yes. You know, one of my favorites. Yeah. Ragnar's 10 Best Traps is awesome. I know that was available on Amazon. That's where I bought it. His are less conventional, like more outside the box. He also has one on man trapping. I'm just saying that might be something you're into. Yeah. But they have a lot of cool things. A lot of them are snares and deadfalls. But also you would do yourself a lot of good if you went and bought a lot of foot traps over at, Gander or Dick's or whatever. Most places there's no issue going and buying those if you don't have a trapper permit or whatever. They don't care. Most of them. I don't know, every state, California, they probably don't even sell that shit. They'd be like, no, that's wrong. But I don't know what y'all do out in California. But there's things like that. Another thing that people never think about in my mind is fish.
Right.
One, fishing is awesome, but two, fish trapping is awesome. So you guys have seen those minnow traps that are like made out of chicken wire, where it like has a cone that funnels in. And so they can go in, it starts at a big hole and then it becomes a little hole. And then they're trapped in the inside. You could do that on a bigger level with, in a stream, right? Mm-hmm. They take rocks. It used to be a big Indian thing where they would take rocks and make like a big V on a flowing river, and they would like funnel them into one section. So like water's still passing through, but the fish or the bigger things are funneled in and ended up in like a small pool where then they can go either drain the pool out or they can
just smack those fish up on the
smash a rock on them, whatever Kevin does. Now, again, all these trapping things, snares, a lot of these, they're called a weir, I believe it's the trap where it's a V and you put it in there.
Right.
But most of those are illegal all the time, but they're not illegal when the world ends.
Right.
I'm just saying, if the government isn't coming to help you, they're probably not coming to yell at you about your trap.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in survival situations overlook fishing, especially if you don't have like a pond or a lake right on your property. You don't even think about it. But I think that you might be able to fish a little bit longer than you're able to hunt. You might be able to find fish longer than you're able to find, white-tailed deer.
Absolutely.
But so I wanted to also talk about some of the long-term food storage. I know a lot of you guys have gotten some of the different stuff, and there's a lot of different companies that you can check out. Emergency Essentials is an interesting one. They do like a fruit and veggie kit where it's all like freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. So there's like 283 servings for $235. That's, for Patriot, 3-month supply of food is $697. Ready Wise, they have a 3-month supply for $545. My Patriot Supply is another one, and they have deals. All these companies have deals all the time.
They have deals all the time. My Patriot Supply was 3 months, 2,000 calories a day for $497. I gotta say that's pretty cool, because if you figure that's 3 people for a month, you've knocked out your, for your most families, you've knocked out your 2-week food supply. I mean, honestly, hey, if you have a family of 6, $497, you got your 2-week food supply, right?
Right.
So my dog is whining. I don't understand.
Yeah. So but I mean, regardless, with all these things, do a little bit of research, because some of these companies will say it's a 6-month supply, but that's 1,000 calories a day. Like you're already at half rations. Some of them just taste like straight shit. Be honest with you, some of them are fucking awful.
Kevin,
and you might want to like do a little bit of research. You don't want to be eating cardboard for 6 months at half calories.
No, absolutely.
And when you see those 6-month supply, that's for one person. That's not,
that's not your whole family.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a year of food supply. I bought a year, Kevin.
For me.
Bought a year.
You guys are on your own.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I will say, I mean, I know I've been a big proponent of this for a long time, is buying a big bag of rice keeps bellies full.
Right.
It's not protein, but you don't have your kids crying that they're starving to death when you have 50-pound bag of rice. And a 50-pound bag of rice is pretty cheap and goes a long way. And I got to say, when you look at like the 30-year shelf life food storage, your bang for the buck, you're actually can do really good going and buying the pancake mix at Sam's Club and throwing it out every 2 years. And for all the calories, and then it goes, past that. So just think about that. You could maybe do good, but if you're like a set it and forget it kind of guy, then that's where the long term becomes huge, right?
Right.
I did put a link in the show notes that's going to get you guys, discounts and good things and help support the show, that kind of stuff. But you need to you need to plan ahead. This is the stuff you buy beforehand. The foraging books are something that you buy before the lights go out, right?
Right.
Going and getting familiar with what's in your yard. And honestly, sometimes when I'm out cutting the lawn, I'm like, hey, there's something useful over here. And I start leaving a bigger area, and you let that one thing thrive, in your property.
Right.
And then they end up escalating. Like somebody, I think, must have planted raspberries, blackberries, something on my property. And when I got there, there was like a bush, and I just kept like cutting around it with the lawnmower instead of running it over like I would normally do. It took my wife yelling at me a few times, but I mean,
it's
after
good. You got to trim it every once in a while. You know what I mean?
But after I learned the technique of driving outside, because I'm like, it's all got to be the same height,
Right,
She'll tell you how I think, and she tells everyone. And but you need to when you start letting it grow. Now I have like 50 bushes, and it's like a 20 by 20,
right,
section of berry bushes, and it was just
I planted
I left it alone.
Three raspberry bushes about 10, 15 years ago, and now I've got a huge section of the yard is raspberries.
Fruit and nut trees are so huge, like game changers on your property. If you're in the South, think nut trees. I don't know how well they do all in the North and stuff, but we can throw pecan trees and things like that. And I mean, if you realize the calories that you get out of nuts, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you can really, they're so calorie dense and protein, and you can really up your stuff. But if you learn things like, hey, I have black walnuts, hey, I can boil that, or acorns, hey, I can, figure out how to get that. That's not something you want to figure out after the lights go out.
Right. If I have a bunch of oak trees on my property, and acorns taste terrible.
Yes.
If you treat them properly, though, they're not bad. You can make flour out of them. You can make a lot of stuff out of them.
Right.
But I mean, one of the things that you should really do is go around your property and identify the plants and the trees that you have on your property already, and think about what you might want to add.
Exactly.
Plant an apple tree, plant a couple of apple trees.
I mean, if I was in New York like Kevin, there would be a lot of apple trees on my property, because that's something, actually my property that I left in New York, I think I had 6 apple trees. Ask me how many apples I ate out of my tree in the entire 7 years.
Squirrels, man. Squirrels get them before they're ready.
Squirrels, man, all the time. I would say one of the secrets of the pros is to plant garlic around the base of your fruit trees. That really deters the deer. Right. Not so much the squirrels.
Squirrels don't give a
deer. Shit. Squirrels didn't give a shit. Those you just got to get out there with the gun, start popping heads.
That's it.
Kevin, that's horrible. But just make sure that you're eating the squirrels when you're shooting them in that. But maybe that's the thing, though, right? Maybe your garden, you're like, oh, that damn rabbit in my garden all the time. Well, turns out that rabbit could be dinner. And we didn't even touch on livestock. Kevin, livestock are a whole other game changer, but obviously it depends where you live and what you can do. Now, you guys have heard me push, and I do practice what I preach with rabbits. I have a lot of rabbits, and there's a lot of rabbits in my freezer. And that's kind of cool. That's a great meat source that's cheap and easy. I had bought a book like Feeding Meat Rabbits for free or something like that. And it was about all the different things growing in your yard. I got to say, if you have pet animals like that, I said pets, but I think with your pets too, if you can find out what these animals eat that grows around where you are and start incorporating that, like dock, we use that like bitter dock, they call it. My rabbits love that, right? We have sweet gum trees everywhere. I can't get rid of them. Like they're the ones that drop these like little piney balls that are crazy. But I can throw in branches and my rabbits are like, yes. And, they lay off the feed because they're down for eating all the other stuff.
Right.
And you can make it where they're either free or almost free to raise. And that's the thing, like same thing with chickens and free range and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that would be another, thing to start ahead of time. Chickens are great. Eggs are a great source of protein. And like you said, if you have them out, if you let them free roam, they can do most of their foraging on their own.
Exactly.
Very little food. I've got a fox in the neighborhood that's been snatching up everybody's chickens, but mine are safe. My wife has like a murder of crows that live in the yard, and every time they start squawking, she goes out there and chases the fox off again.
Well, that's it. You just gotta be on top of it, right?
Yeah.
And can I recommend a thermal scope? Maybe not in New York, but the rest in free America.
In free America, you can do almost anything you want. Yeah.
You can do whatever you like. But I don't know. I don't even know if that's right. I'm sure there's certain times you can shoot foxes or something. I would never do it. I read in a movie.
Read about it in a book once.
Read about it in a book and saw it in a movie, something. One of the things, so the rabbits, I know with mine, my biggest thing is butchering takes time, right?
Yeah.
So it is a thing. I watch these videos and people are like, yeah, I just shake the guts. They come right out of the rabbit. I don't know about any of that. Mine, it takes a minute.
Yeah, it takes some work.
So butchering's the effort on mine. I would say I could have 3 times the amount of meat in my freezer at a minimum of what I do if I was more on top of it and faster. But I'm still butchering a lot of rabbits and doing. And like I said, now that I'm supplementing their feed with the different, stuff that's growing in the yard, it makes it a lot cheaper and a lot easier to do. Mm-hmm. So that's something to be aware of. I do find it tricky to find people who sell rabbits that aren't the same people I bought rabbits from before, and trying to bring in new life and fresh whatever, so they're not all inbred and whatever. I don't know how much that's a big deal. I know they talk about illness and stuff like that comes with too much inbreeding or whatever, but that's a thing. But we do good with it. I like them. Thoughts? You're there?
Yeah, I think that's about all we got for today.
So the easy thing, remember the easy out is just buy some long-term food storage. My Patriot Supply, sponsor of the show. Put it in the show notes. Got a link for you. But otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.